Hi, everyone. This week we are kicking off the third year of the Ontario Breeding Bird Atlas. So all over Ontario for the past 2 years and for the next 3 years, volunteer birders are going out and submitting their observation of what they see. And it really helps us learn more about birds. And I'm here in Northern Ontario, where I am the volunteer regional coordinator for Region 41. So in the Temagami area, New Liskeard, Timmins, South Porcupine, Matheson, Matachewan. So all over Ontario, there are volunteer coordinators like me who just coordinate the efforts. So we had a meeting yesterday, a good meeting with some participants where we learned just how to submit general observation to the Atlas with the Nature Counts app. It's really easy. I recorded the meeting, but it did not record the screen where I demonstrated how to use the app. So I'm doing another recording this morning. Hopefully it'll work. So I want to tell everyone good start of the season, and thank you. It is National Volunteer Appreciation Week, so I want to thank the 57 volunteers who are out in the Timmins, New Liskeard, Temagami area, Kirkland Lake, and everywhere in Ontario. There are about 13,000 for the project as a whole. We really want to thank you, because without you, this project would not happen. So I'm going to show you today how easy it is to download, to upload some observation. So I'll start with the real simple scenario, and then I'll move on to another scenario. So we are using the NatureCount app. You can find it on the Apple Store. This is what it looks like. You can find it on the Apple Store for iPhone or the Google Play for Android. And this is what I'm going to be using today. Okay, so I am going to open my Nature Counts app, because I am registered for the Atlas and already put my username and password in. I'm logged in already. So I'm going to click on the app, and remember, I told you we'd do a little scenario. So here it is. I am driving towards Matheson, and I stop on the side of the road to take a phone call, and suddenly, just a little bit in the field there, I see 2 sandhill cranes. So I say, wow, this is a good observation. I'm going to put it in the Atlas. So I open the app. This is the first page. Now you have the date. Now let's say for our scenario, it's June 10th. Right now you see today's date, but pretend it's June 10th. The time goes automatically. I leave it on general atlasing, and then I can see where I am if I click on edit location. It usually is accurate, but I just make sure that's where I am, and I click next. And now remember, I just saw 2 sandhill crane just driving somewhere, and I want to put them in just as a general observation. So I will go to the top bar and write sandhill crane here. Now you see it comes up sandhill crane, and I have 2 columns next to it. I have the total, so I saw 2. I'm going to click on the little plus twice. 1, 2. I can also long click to write my own number or to erase it. I'll leave it at 2. Now the other column that's important is the breeding evidence column, and this breeding evidence BE, all it means is what the bird is doing. So if you click on BE, it'll open up a list of codes. You do not need to know them all by heart, because if you click on list view, you will have a definition. Now, remember, we're pretending it's June 10th and we saw 2 sandhill crane just in a field. So we could put them as habitat because they are just standing in suitable habitat for their nesting. And I know we're thinking that they could be a pair, but with sandhill cranes, you'll get a little caution here. Male and female looks very much alike, so it's almost impossible to tell them apart. So we'll forget the pair for this one because we're not sure, but we're sure that they're in suitable habitat. So we'll put H. Now there is a list of an explanation, a longer definition of all these breeding evidence code on the website at birdsontario.org. Under tools, you can find that. Now there's another little thing I want to show you. Today is April, so you see the caution here. It just means that right now in April, sandhill cranes are migrating. So we would not put the habitat code or the singing code because migrating birds can be in suitable habitat, but they're on their way somewhere else. So they're not inside what we call the safe breeding date. But we're pretending for this scenario that we're June 10th, which means that all the birds seen in suitable habitat most likely will breed there. So, and it's really cool on the app because you don't have to know their breeding calendar by heart because the app always tells you if you're outside that period or not. So we're going to put the H. If you click on the bird itself, this is very handy for the data team and reviewers. You can add details. So you see details here. You can say saw 2 together while driving, blah, blah, blah. Save. Let's say just as you're about to leave, a little fluffy yellow head pops out from behind their legs. You will update the breeding evidence to a fledged young, because fledged young mean that they have a little baby with them. So you'll update that and you will add one. There you go. So once you're done, you click on review at the bottom. Okay, so it brings me back to the page here to review that all my information is correct. Now, I would leave it at stationary if I stood around and really tried to ID all the birds I saw and heard. But this time it was different. I was driving somewhere. I wasn't out birding. It was just an incidental observation. So I'll click on incidental. And at the bottom, I can add details and then click next. And I can either submit or save it as a draft. So I'll save that one as a draft. So now I'll do another scenario where you want to go for a walk and you want to list all the birds you see and hear in the atlas. So we'll do a traveling checklist. So I'm near my cottage, near Temagami, and I want to go for a walk. So I make sure the time and date is okay. General atlasing is okay. Starting location, it's all set on the map. And then I click next and I start my walk. I click next when I start walking and I'm ready to listen and ID all the birds I see and hear. So I got my binoculars out. I see 2 chickadees and they are singing. So under the breeding evidence code, I will choose S for singing. Don't mind the caution because we're pretending that we're June 6th. So I'll put singing and you see the little timer beside the search bar. It's counting and I'm walking. So it's also measuring my track. So I hear an alder flycatcher. What is he doing? He's singing. I'll put an S. Later on, I see a rose-breasted grosbeak. He's not singing. He's just perched on a tree. So I write rose-breasted grosbeak. 1. So under the breeding evidence, he's just perched on a tree, but he's in good habitat. He could be breeding there. So I'll put H for habitat. And you see there is a little symbol next to the rose-breasted grosbeak. Every time you see a little symbol, it means that we would really appreciate more information. So add details. It's a male, perched in, and then you can describe the habitat and so on. Now, when you have a significant species like that have a little symbol next to it, you can also pin its location, and it helps us determine which habitat they require to breed. So you saw it, it's June 6, it's perched in suitable habitat. You can pin right here, write the number of individual, write the breeding evidence. Here we said it was H, and done. That way you're providing lots of information for us. And you continue your walk like this. At the end, you will see your track when you click on the little map at the bottom. Now, I don't have a track because I'm sitting at home right now, but you should see a track. I'll show you what it looks like in a bit. So I'm done. I click review. Okay, so once I click review, it'll bring me back to this page so that I make sure that my data is okay. I can add comments. Now it'll be a traveling count because remember I was walking. You should see here in the distance that it calculated, and you can edit track just to make sure that the trajectory you walked is okay. And at the bottom, you should see, are you reporting all the birds you were able to identify? So in this case, I did report every single bird I heard or saw, so I'll put yes, and I'll click next, and it'll give me an option to either submit it or save it as a draft up here with the 3 little dots. You see error. Error just means that I have rare birds. So when I have rare birds, I go in and I add some details just so that the reviewer knows that it's not a typo, that I really identified it. So I will write a description of the birds and how I distinguished it from other birds. The reason they are rare here is because we are April as I'm filming this, so they're not here yet. So I will close this checklist, and I will go show you how the track is supposed to look like. So once you're finished your walk, you can click on Edit Track, and you should see your track in red. Now, if you forgot to close it and you went a little too far, or you see that you're just outside the square there, you can trim your track a little bit. You see the slider, and you adjust it to where it should be, and it's all good to go. So I hope this really helped show you that everyone can contribute. We do have other surveys, like special surveys where you go out at night and look for owls. And we also have point counts. So if you can ID every bird that you hear and see, you can do 5-minute counts where you stand in a specific location and count all the birds you see and hear. If you would like to do point counts, but you're not sure you can ID all the birds you hear, we have these little recorders called a Zoom recording unit. So you can go to a pre-selected location, press record, say where you are, which square, the date and time. And at the end of the day, after you do a few of those, we send those to get analyzed. So they are called digital point counts. So if you have any questions on submitting observation or how to participate, or any questions at all about birds, don't hesitate to contact me. You can go to the Atlas website at birdsontario.org, and if you scan the QR code on this page, it'll bring you to a quick start guide. So all the steps you need to know to start putting your observations in the Atlas.